Welcome. As we begin, please turn off or silence any electronic devices that may disturb the service. I invite you to enjoy the chapel in the back of the sanctuary and note joys and concerns in the book there. If you have little ones, we have a nursery downstairs. And after our service, I invite you all downstairs to enjoy hospitality and greet one another. Finally, please note the announcements in your order of service with many ways to be engaged in this vibrant community.
Good morning and Happy New Year, everyone. My name is Christine Harrell. I was elected by you, the membership, to serve on the Board of Trustees, and this year I'm serving as Vice President of the Board, and it's my pleasure to welcome you here on the first of our first Sundays of the year. Come, whoever you are welcome here. No matter your age, your size, the color of your eyes, your hair, your skin, you are welcome here. No matter whom you love, how you speak, or whatever your abilities, you are welcome here. You are welcome here whether you come with laughter in your heart or tears. You are welcome here. If you come here with an open mind, a loving heart, and willing hands, you are welcome here.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Seemed like there was an echo thing that happened. The year stretches before us, full of possibility. I am glad that our first Sunday of the new year, we are welcoming. I can see that our friends from Springville made it up. Could we have our friends from Springville stand? Barbara, do you mind? Provo! Oh, she's not from Springville, she's from Provo. Okay. We are happy always on our first Sundays to welcome our friends who worship in Springville on the second and fourth Sundays of the month in the afternoon. And they are with us on the first Sundays, which is why we have chosen that Sunday to have our potluck together, followed by classes. You can find all of that information on your order of service. This year begins with possibility, and it begins with sadness, as most of you know, but I would like to say at the beginning of our service that someone very dear to our congregation, the daughter of Linda Reed, Carrie Lou Stedman, died this week. And we are mourning her loss. Her funeral will be here in this sanctuary on Friday afternoon. Let us open as always, we have sadness and happiness in our hearts. And I bring you the words of Edward Searle. Always there is a beginning, a new day, a new month, a new season, a new year. Forever the old passes away, and newness emerges from the richness that was. Nothing is ever lost in the many changes time brings. What was in some way will be, though changed in form. Always there is a beginning, a new day, a new month, a new season, a new year. Let us bring in this new year with hope. Thank you.
Everyone, please rise. We've gone to the
minutes. Today we are happy to begin our new year celebrating the birth of a child, a new child coming into our community. Leo, what is the name of your new brother?
It's Leo. I'm Alexander David Michael Terrace.
Did you get that? What is the name of Leo's new brother? Alexander Michael. Okay, Alexander David Michael Terrace. Whew.
Just in case there's another one sometime.
Will you call him Alex or Alexander? Alex, okay. Okay, welcome. Welcome, Alex. Welcome. Wow. He is 10 months today. Wow. So the first, or wait, not yet? Okay. A couple more hours till he's 10 months old. Okay. So Karen and Ryan and Leonardo and David and Mary, in bringing Alexander to be celebrated and welcomed in this place, you are acknowledging the need for loving care and your determination to guide him with understanding and commitment. Your affection and devotion will support him through the years. Do you promise to the best of your ability, by your example, your love, and your wisdom, to lead this child in the way of goodness, beauty, justice, and truth? I now invite you, Karen and Ryan, to give your hopes and wishes for Alexander.
Okay, neither of us are very wordy, so we found an Apache blessing instead. May the sun bring you new energy by day. May the moon softly restore you by night. May the rain wash away your worries, and the breeze blow new strength into your being. And all the days of your life, may you walk gently through the world and know its beauty.
Thank you. And since we're lucky to have the grandparents here too, do you have hopes and wishes for Alexander? Oh, I guess I get to say it for both of us.
Alexander, we wish you a life full of joy. We wish you a life full of love. We wish you a life full of curiosity and invention and wonders.
Seems like he heard you. And now I would like the youth and children of the congregation to stand. So, children and youth of the congregation, these parents and grandparents have brought their child, what's his name? Perfect. They have brought their child here to be dedicated today. As Alexander lives and grows among us, he soon will take his place with you in the activities of this congregation. Will you welcome him and help him find his way? If you will, say, "We will." We will. Oh, nice. Thank you. You can be seated. Will the entire congregation now rise? Will you, members and friends of the South Valley Unitarian Universalist Society, rejoice with these parents in the birth of their child? Will you take upon yourselves the sacred privilege and responsibility of nurturing his character and spirit, pledging to him and his parents and grandparents the love and care of this congregation? Thank you. You may be seated. And now, Alexander, may May your heart always know love. May your mind search for truth and beauty. Yes. Your eyes always seek justice. May your hands find labor that fulfills you, your body carry you far. And may your spirit forever seek the mountaintop. Amen. And welcome. Thank you. And now I invite all of the children to go downstairs to that happy place where your teachers are waiting for you. And we will sing. I now invite you to listen to this sound and to find that place within you, that place of quiet, that place that has been called the still point of the turning earth. Let us breathe in deeply and breathe out, knowing and imagining that below us is that earth we love so much, layers upon layers of history, all the way down to its fiery core. And above us, if we extend ourselves, we would go beyond this valley and up through the atmosphere and into the universe and that place of stars, and that place where stars are made. We stand together today, holding with us the sadness of a member of our community, Linda Reed, who has lost her daughter. We hold that collectively, and in each of us, we hold the joys and sorrows of our lives. And into that we ask light to shine, the light of community, the light of the universe. I invite you, after I ring the bell, into about a minute of silence. And as we begin that silence, I invite you to bring any names that you would like to be held collectively during this time. Jennifer, Linda Reed.
Pepper, please.
Jennifer Reem Willis. Stedman. Together, in the light of this community, we hold all those whose names were uttered and those that we have kept in our hearts. May we take this light into our lives and bring it into the world around us. Amen.
Network of grassroots organizations devoted to securing reproductive justice for women of color. For more information, please see your order of service. Will you join with me in saying the words printed in the order of service for our offering? We are this church. We are its hands, its heart, its voice. Together we share in the wealth of this community and sustain it with our gifts. South Valley thanks you for your gifts.
This is from A Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. 1,500 persons had been traveling by train for several days and nights. There were 80 people in each coach. The carriages were so full that only the top parts of the window were free to let in the gray of dawn. Everyone expected the train to head for some munitions factory in which we would be employed as forced labor. The engine's whistle had an uncanny sound, like a cry for help sent out in commiserations for the unhappy load which it was destined to lead into perdition. Then the train shunted, obviously nearing a main station. Suddenly a cry broke out from the ranks for the anxious passengers. There is a sign, Auschwitz. Everyone's heart missed a beat at that moment. With the progressive dawn, the outlines of an immense camp became visible. Long stretches of several rows of barbed wire fences, watchtower, searchlights, and long columns of ragged human figures, gray in the grayness of dawn, trekking along the straight, desolate roads to which destination we did not know. There were isolated shouts and whistles of command. We did not know their meaning. I was horrified, but this was just as well, because step by step we had become accustomed to a terrible and immense war.
Thank you, Sarah. In the reading from Viktor Frankl's account of arriving at Auschwitz, we relive the results of fear. And that is what I want to begin with today. What we hear, what we read in these courageous accounts of what happened in these concentration camps during World War II is the harvest of fear that was sown by Hitler around people who were different. Does that sound familiar at all? Fear around people who are different. And this fear turned off the humanity that lives in all people. It turned that off in some people, and it allowed room for atrocities. Fear. I wonder how many of you saw scenes from Auschwitz and Dachau as junior high students. I don't know if they do that anymore. They did it to us. How many really? Did anybody not see them? Oh, well, I guess maybe it was a choice. Anyway, those images of earth-moving vehicles, moving bodies, and just the horror of that time when they liberated the camps and found what had been going on. These images, I was a very impressionable and I had a wild imagination, and those scenes stayed in my mind and dreams for many years. I'm imagining that's true of many of you as well. And in Japan, they show pictures from Hiroshima to the junior high school students. So they have images, very strong images in their mind of fingers that are melting. There's a particular film that I think they show everyone. And in this way, among many other ways, fears sneak into our dreams. After September 11th, the fear that occurred and then was encouraged and directed towards Iraq closed our eyes to the humanity of the Iraqi people. And we learned later in those photographs from Abu Ghraib. Remember Abu Ghraib? The prison where our soldiers did really awful things to the Iraqi prisoners. how our people had stopped seeing other people as human. Fear, a harvest of fear. The terrorism of 9/11 spread terror and fear far beyond Iraq, into the borders of this country where we were living, into Arizona, and began to transform in the eyes of many those migrants who were escaping poverty, turning them into criminals, making us treat them, because of our fear, with less and less humanity. These past months, our eyes have been opening to the fear that exists in the heart of racism and has caused our court system through many, many, many years to excuse violence against people of color because the people were afraid. If people lived without fear, Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, Tamir Rice, Jamar Clark, Eric Garner, Darian Hunt, and so many others would still be alive. In my work with the clergy group and the police, one of the most disturbing things I have heard is that law enforcement officers are feeling more fear. And fear is what fuels that deadly cycle in ourselves as individuals. It can close off our worlds, our families, our relationships, and as groups, churches, and as a country, it is what moves us towards destruction. What are your fears? Let me give you just a moment to think about that. What are your fears? Since I was 15 years old and in a driver's ed class in the dead winter of central Wisconsin, I have had a stressful relationship with driving. Read stressful relationship, fear. There are many factors, there always are. One is that I personally feel I'm the only person in the United States who believes the statistics that you are more likely to die from a car crash than any other way. I don't fear airplanes because statistically, well, I don't know, it's probably not because of that. I love airplanes. Anyway, I don't fear them, and statistically, it's very unlikely that you would die from a plane crash or that you would die from terrorism. Apparently, since September 11th, 400,000 people have died from gun violence. There are lots of reasons for me to keep my fear of driving. When I was 26 years old, I was in an accident. That was the same year that my friend Sarah was killed in an accident. I was driving the freeways of Los Angeles with a piece of paper, this was my second year driving, with a piece of paper taped on the dashboard of a pale yellow Volkswagen Beetle with a list of the freeways that I needed to change in order to get a job. With a master's degree in medieval French, I was working temporary jobs all over Los Angeles, not doing medieval French. And looking at that, you know, trying to glance at it as I was maneuvering the freeways, I got off on the wrong exit. And all of a sudden, I was in Watts. Watts is the part of Los Angeles that white people see as dangerous because there are almost no white people living there. So as I drove down that street, I saw no one who looked like me, and my fear level rose. I turned off my radio, rolled up my windows, and when I got to a stoplight, I did that crazy, stupid thing that fear sometimes makes people do. I mistook the gas pedal and the brake pedal. and I pushed into the gas pedal and hit the car in front of me, a large, beautiful, sturdy Cadillac. The front of my Volkswagen, which is the trunk part if you remember those old cars, pushed into the front tires, so I could not move my car. I got out of my car, and the woman who was driving the car in front of me got out, and she smiled at me, and she said, she looked her car over, and she said, "I don't see any damage, honey, to my car, but yours looks pretty bad." She gave me her phone number, and I gave her mine, and then she drove off. I think she might have said something like, "Honey, you seem really far from home." Somehow I was able to move fear in my memory. I don't remember this very well, but I was able to move my car slowly to the side of this boulevard. And then I went looking for a phone. There were no public phones. The only one I could find was inside a bar. Everyone was kind to me. Everyone. And finally, AAA came and pulled the front of my car out a little so I could drive home. Fear could have killed me and someone else. So I know when I get into my car that my biggest enemy is fear. And then my parents were killed in a car accident. So the last few months, I have had to really work with my fear over and over again. We've been doing a kind of tango together. And I want to say I am blessed with a partner who never enables my fear. She always says, "You're fine, get in the car, go." So, I've told you about my fear. I don't want you going to me ever. How's your driving? Okay? So I'm asking you, what are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? If you can think of something, write it on your phone, on your program, because I think the first step in transcending fear is knowing what your fear is. What are your fears? Do you have a fear you're thinking of? Anyway, if you can't think of something, think about it later, and then sit like I'm asking you to do right now. And think about what you do with that fear. I spend the first part of each day working through my fears in notebooks, a practice I have been doing for so many years that if I piled them one on top of the other, they fill a stable in Arizona. I'm sure that they would go way above the house. Some of the writing has become sermons, others poetry, others paintings. And mostly this writing has sustained me and kept me hopeful, kept me walking one foot in front of the other when the landscape looked dicey, when it looked like Salt Lake City. Through lots of dark forests, this writing has taken me through those places of fairy tales into places of light. Do you have a practice that helps you work through your fears? Because one thing I know, we're all human and we've all got them. So if you think you don't have them, you might be deluded. And I think it's important for all of us to find a way to deal with those fears. We are starting a meditation group on Saturday mornings. We're starting prayer groups. These are things we can do together. Because if you want to transcend your fears, you need to have an ongoing practice. There's 12-step programs are marvelous for conquering fears. There's a wonderful adult children of alcoholics 12-step program that Karen Smith, can you raise your hand? Karen, and you can talk with her afterwards. It's a marvelous program. And Bob Spicer is going to be starting a meditation group on Saturday morning and bring that gift to us. Each of you needs to find a way to work through fear. Because as I was reminded when I went to the ceremony for the people who died at Wounded Knee 125 years ago, the grandmothers who came to the Parliament of World Religions and the people who attended that ceremony said, "We cannot change anything in the world until we change ourselves." So if fear is the biggest problem in the world, which I think it is, then we have to first see the fears in our own hearts and overcome them. But I have a quick fix that you can start doing right away, that we can start doing right now. Even if you don't have room for anything else, this is what I do. When I sit in my car and I'm feeling stress, I focus on what I love in my life, and I think about what I'm grateful for, and I can feel my mind going on a kind of search in my brain for those things that I'm grateful for. And I've discovered that gratitude and fear cannot exist together. Gratitude has a way of banishing fear. So if you start that, let's just do that for a moment, because you might be scared I'm going to call on you, which I might. So feel that fear. Okay. Now I want you to think of something you're grateful for. Breathe that in. I think if everyone did this at stoplights, we would stop having road rage. Let us breathe in and out, gratitude moving through our bodies. Gratitude can help you put your feet back on the ground. And one reason why this practice of working through your fears is so important is that often on the other side of those fears, if we break through them, there's some surprising inspiration. Because our fears and our best gifts exist very close together. In this sanctuary, more than a month ago, we had a service by the Inclusion Center. And we were having leaders from many different faiths. A rabbi spoke, and Pastor Davis spoke. And we were supposed to have an imam was supposed to come, but he didn't come. So, which actually I can tell you that I found out later, he simply forgot. There was nothing particular about it. But after that, when I was talking with people, they said that they knew and had heard that Muslims were feeling fear in Salt Lake City. And so, thinking about fear, I thought about the fear that we Unitarian Universalists have sometimes feared for being different. And I wrote a letter to them that was signed by many clergy members. And I was told that that letter helped. People reached out to me and thanked me. And I could see that that is what happened when the Unitarian Universalist Church in Knoxville in 2008, when a gunman came in and killed 5 people, that it was the interfaith community that gathered around them. And this is what you have done. When you walked in that gay pride parade, when it was just a little short thing that took a few minutes for everyone to get by. When you walked in that parade, you were saying, I am willing to stand with you. And I don't really care if people think I am gay, because they might have thought you were gay, and some of you were gay. And in doing that, you were crossing that line that has danger written on it. You were transcending fear. If you wore a headscarf on December 18th, then I'd love to hear what your experience was. I felt vulnerable. I thought twice about going into a supermarket. And at the mosque that day, we heard of teenagers who were being pushed into lockers. That should not happen to anyone. And when the LDS Church published their policy on LGBTQ couples and children, those of you who gave messages of hope and love, you were doing that work of standing by people who were feeling fear. Fear of losing their children, their faith community. This is what transcending fear looks like. And it's one more reason why our gathering together is so important. This is where the personal work that you do in trying to overcome your personal fears becomes the basis of work that we do out in the world. And this is where we can practice transcending fear as a community, as people have done from ancient times, sitting in circles, breathing together, gathering strength and courage for the week ahead, singing. Sometimes we are the ones who are called to sing the lullaby in the night, who must hold the hand, stand by those who are feeling fear. And sometimes our songs together become the lullabies of the community, the reality check that we will survive, even if that horrible person becomes president. I'm not saying names. And if you want that horrible person, in my opinion, to become president, you are welcome here. It's true. It's true. It's true. Viktor Frankl, who wrote about his experience surviving 4 prison camps, including Auschwitz and Dachau. He survived and even flourished from those times. His approach to surviving the day-to-day, minute-to-minute misery and suffering brought wisdom that has been cherished by many people when faced with unbelievable circumstances. That is the book my mother brought to the hospital when my father was in such pain many years ago. She sat by his bed and she read to him the words of Viktor Frankl. he wrote, "For what then matters is to bear witness to the uniquely human potential at its best, which is to transform a personal tragedy into triumph, to turn one's predicament into a human achievement." Viktor Frankl's survival, which was acted out minute by minute, has meaning. Our survival has meaning. Your learning to transcend your fears will be a light to your children and the people around you in ever-widening circles. This year, we're going to be encountering an increased level of fear. This is what happens during an election year. That is what Imam Mehtar said when they asked him about the words that were being said about Muslims. He said, "This always happens on election years." And I think it's because fear gets us off the point. It is a way for politicians to shout "squirrel" so they don't have to talk about those difficult issues like health care, poverty, and climate change. Fear grabs our attention. Let us not allow that to happen. Let us take up that challenge of finding our fear within, and let us become accustomed to understanding, recognizing fear-based rhetoric in our own people. It's so easy to see in the people we hate. It's much harder to see in the people we'd like to have in office, but it is there. And when you hear it, tell people they are off the point. Let us demand of our candidates that they tackle the real problems. Let us look for fear and point it out. And I want to make it very clear, as I just did, if you're a Republican, you are welcome here. And I mean it. Just like you do not know what someone sitting next to you believes or doesn't believe about God, you cannot assume their political ideas. Don't make assumptions. This is part of who we are. And let us not lose energy, because I've seen this start to happen. Let us not lose energy fearing what will happen if that horrible person gets elected. Or I should say people. There are so many. Because each of us, just like Viktor Frankl, in his book, he doesn't talk about the fear of the gas chamber, although that was very real. He talks about having sores on his feet and how they were swollen and how he had to walk for miles in shoes that did not fit and how he had to sleep with insects that were biting him. He talks about the small things, and it was overcoming the small things that gave him that enlightened view that now helps people when they are in trouble. We must work on our small things, like our driving, like that annoying thing that somebody does. The formula that I give you, that I've been talking about in working about fear, is a variation on the work of Brené Brown, a researcher and storyteller who has been a great guide to me in my life. These are the ways. You name your fears. You find a practice, a way for you to dance with your fears, to meditate, prayer, writing, singing, skiing, but not on Sunday morning, hiking, walking. There are so many ways. And then listen to that courageous voice that emerges and what that voice is urging you to do, what that voice is urging you, how it is urging you to use your gifts, and then act. And if all else fails, breathe in and breathe out your gratitude. There is always work to do to transcend our fears and live differently. And if we can do this work, those marvelous indigenous grandmothers tell us that in this there is hope in the world. Together, we can transform our fear over and over again. May we do this alone and may we do this together. May it be so. Amen. The song we are singing for our closing song is a song that was written for an 80-year-old's birthday, and I invite you to sing the chorus, which is written in your programs. This woman who we wrote this song for was a psychiatric nurse, but we didn't know her then. We knew her as the woman who went out in the desert and rescued people. May we find the fears as they come into our hearts, as we see them on television. Let us look for fears and find ways to transcend them. I close with the words of Matt Meyer. May we go forward in purposeful rhythm, that we may give voice to the melody of our imaginations, the music of our souls, and all the possibilities of a just world as we might together create it. With all of those possibilities in our heart, I say, may it be so. Amen.